So I just got done watching the newest episode of My Hero Academia, and it was pretty damn good. I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty damn good. It was pretty enjoyable. A lot of action. I am gonna go ahead and anticipate that there's gonna be quite a lot of action for the next coming weeks, especially with all the shit that's happening currently right now in the show. So not really all that surprising, really. But there were a couple of characters who I was decently semi interested in from the other schools besides UA, and some of them didn't really disappoint. There was Shindo, whose quirk we didn't know unless you are reading the manga and you've read the manga, then you already pretty much know what his fucking quirk is. But his quirk is actually kind of interesting in the sense that it's vibrate and he can basically cause earthquakes and shit. Todoroki in the episode even points out like tremors, is that an earthquake? And he's like, nah, it was someone's quirk and whatever, right? So he's kind of interesting in terms of his quirk, but he didn't really do a whole lot in this episode, which kind of irritated me a little bit because it seems like they're gonna put a little bit more focus on him. He seems like one of the main guys that UA is gonna have to deal with in this whole entire fucking bullshit. And then there was the guy that Aizawa was talking about. I was gonna try to pronounce his name, but I don't want to butcher the shit out of it. But all I'm gonna say is that by himself he eliminated 120 people. I didn't even really fucking expect that in the episode. It just fucking happened like almost halfway to the episode, and it fucking surprised me. It shocked me. I couldn't fucking believe it. Not only do we get that, like after we see a couple other characters from the other schools, and we also see their quirks. Like one of them has stiffening as a quirk, so basically, if both his hands touch a handful of objects, they basically harden and they become harder. And I like how I actually laughed a little bit because in the episode they emphasize that it doesn't work on living things. So if you're thinking stiffening and you know what stiffens with the male body, then you better shut the fuck up, you fucking pedophiles. There's another guy who also has a quirk boomerang, which allows him to throw objects at different trajectories, and he can even throw them underground. He actually displays that ability of being able to throw objects underground with the guy who took the balls that they were given, and he hardened them with his stiffening quirk, and he threw them underground. It was actually pretty interesting. And then of course Shindo, like the main guy with the vibrate quirk, he destroys the ground and pretty much completely separates everybody in UA. Everybody has pretty much been separated. Most of everybody was like standing next to each other, just trying to stick together, so that way they don't lose anyone and fucking teamwork and shit. But of course, if you remember already, Todoroki went off by himself, and Bakugo, of course, because he's arrogant, he went off by himself as well. But Kirishima actually followed right behind him, so it doesn't really matter anyways. So most of UA was just, kind of trying to huddle up together and just survive as long as they can whilst trying to take out as many people as possible. They all got separated. Midoriya is by himself. He's kind of monologuing to himself, and then he even points out that even though he's kind of like in distress and like he should be like worrying about like all this other fucking bullshit that's happening, he's actually quite excited. And then that's when we meet one of the other interesting characters in the episode, at least one that I found interesting. And her name is Camie, and unironically, of course, I have a friend in real life. Her name is Camie as well, so that's interesting, to say the least. But she just kind of comes out of nowhere, and she actually hits one of the weak spots on Deku's costume. So she actually manages to hit one of the objects, one of the weak points on his costume. I'm not gonna lie, she made me feel kind of uncomfortable the entire time because I don't know, like her suit is like skin tight. She's showing a lot of cleavage, and then she does like this fucking thing in the episode where like she can move around really fucking fast. Like that's not even her quirk. Her quirk isn't to move around fast at all. She just moves really fucking quickly. It's kind of weird. I don't understand how that's not her quirk, but we'll get into what her quirk actually is and what she can do with her quirk. But she gets up and all like on like Deku's like back and shit, and she's like, "Oh, I want you to tell me about yourself, yada yada, whatever." She's like, "I want to know more about you and everyone else in the fucking like school, whatever." But she's like caressing her body like up against Deku's back and shit, and like she's getting like close to his fucking like ear and like his fucking cheek and shit, like she's about to fucking make out with him. I was like, dog, can you like back up a little bit? You're making me feel fucking uncomfortable with your boy, you know? Your boy is not feeling right now. So one of the other schools shows up and they're all grouped up together because uh, it was explained in the last episode that the schools are gonna pretty much try as hard as they fucking can to not only win but to basically eliminate UA as quickly as possible. And if you don't know why, go watch the last episode if you forgot, I guess. But regardless, they show up. Uraka shows up out of nowhere seemingly, but spoiler alert, it's actually not her. Deku has a little bit of monologue with himself, saying like, "Oh, I gotta train my leg to do this, that." I was like, "Yeah, cool. You don't need to explain it. We know what's happening." Yeah, he then uses one for all full cowling shoot style. He like kicks the ground with his leg, and then he kind of, I guess, uses his fucking toes to do like what he does with like his fingers back in the beginning of season 2. So that was interesting. It was actually pretty cool. But Deku and Uraka, they get behind cover. They're kind of just like sitting there, and then Uraka seems to be trying to get one of his weak points. Deku obviously knocks it out of his hand because that's when he finally realizes that that's actually not her. And that was Camie just before, because her quirk is she's able to completely disguise herself and pretty much take on the form of someone entirely different. Of course, she can't actually use the person's quirk, but she can pretty much be anyone that she wants to be, at the cost of losing her clothes, I guess. Because I guess she's like completely naked now, but it's kind of weird because she doesn't really look naked. It kind of just seems like she's got like slime all over her fucking body and shit. It still looks like she's wearing a suit though. It still looks like she's wearing something. She's not actually naked. It's really weird. So, of course, Deku is explaining to Hantasero and Uraka, because they actually show up and they help Deku with like his situation with what's happening with Camie and whatever. And then he tries to like make sure that they're real, right? Like they're not actually like someone else who can do something similar to her, or it's actually her in disguise and everything, right? And then he explains what happened with Uraka and how she was naked. And then Sero and was like, "You mean she was Uraka and she was naked as her?" And then he was like, "No, that's not what I meant at all." So just kind of uncomfortable, but that's her quirk. She's able to disguise herself as someone else entirely as this person she wants to be, just without the quirk. You know, that's pretty much it. So they hide out somewhere. They huddle up. They try to come up with a plan, trying to meet up with everybody else because everybody gets separated. And then the rest of the episode ends off with Todoroki. Todoroki is by himself, like I explained earlier, and then he's fucking being hunted down by the Akatsuki. It seems like from Naruto, because because Todoroki's by himself, and it's 1 versus 10, and all these motherfuckers are dressed up like ninja. Like, not even fucking kidding. These motherfuckers are dressed up as ninja. So Todoroki obviously uses his half cold, half hot quirk to freeze them all in place. They're just standing there, and he freezes them in place. But I don't know if they all have different quirks or if they all have the same quirk, because they're all different people. That's the weird thing. And they all have like different colors, but their costumes are pretty much the exact same. So one of the guys, he's the guy who's in all red, and pretty much what his quirk is that he's able to throw objects, and then he can increase the size of them drastically. I actually don't know what the name of the quirk is, but that's what he's able to do. And Todoroki actually tries to use his half-hot quirk, side of his quirk actually, and it doesn't melt. And that's because the material of it is actually much stronger to where it won't actually melt as easily. So this is pretty much someone's quirk and ability that is pretty much able to counter anything that Todoroki could do, besides his half cold side, which can stop objects, but not for too long because they could just like spam the hell out of them, you know. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much how the episode ends. Todoroki's kind of backed into a corner. The guy is saying like, "Oh, you're overconfident because you're by yourself," yada yada, and the episode pretty much just ends there. So a lot of action, a lot of interesting stuff happened. There were a handful of characters where I was like, "Yeah, that guy's cool," and I was like, "Yeah, that guy's cool too." And then you meet Camie, and I'm like, "Yo, don't make me feel uncomfortable like that. Don't make your boy uncomfortable, you fucking hoe." The episode previews are basically continuing on with a couple of other characters and what they're doing. We finally get to see Bakugo in the next episode because he wasn't in this episode. I don't know why he wasn't in the episode, but he wasn't. So we're gonna see him next week. I'm excited for what else they have, prepared for all this bullshit that's happening. Very curious, like I said. So, anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up the video here. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like, and if you are new, please be sure to subscribe for more videos just like this. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day, of course. I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm out. Peace.